Hello, hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval. I'm I'm drawing a blank. The show.
The show where we talk about your cards.
I'm Stranger Side. I'm joined today, as always, by my faithful co-host Grief. Say hi, Grief.
Hi, folks.
And I am joined today by my regular panelist, Empty Folder.
Thanks for having me.
And it is a different room this time. It's not a different angle on the same room. It's a different room. And today, as part of our Valentine's Day special, we are joined by none other than my fiancee, GummiBearz95. Okie doke. Yeah, she's in the other room. Anyways, so I wanted to hop straight into it with the accepted submissions from last week, starting with Phasar Blast, which is a 2-drop neutral action from nowhere in particular, with deal 1 damage to a unit, then either deal 2 to the same unit or 1 to another. So what this is a neutral, almost a creeped version of lightning or fireball, but it could also give you some versatile removal options against aggro, because we are tired of having 1 HP units. We had it where 1 HP was maybe a little bit survivable after the rotation, but now we got to totally get rid of that. What do you think of this design, Grief?
I think it's totally fine, and the overreaction of hating 1 HP units is a little bit of a far-fetched argument, considering that our removal suit is pretty, all over the place after rotation. So this is just a fine filler, and we'll probably see play in standard until we have better options for either being spot removal or being better board wipe-esque effects.
Yeah. Oh, it's not because technically it can only hit units. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's fine. It's quite a strong card. I think I agree with Grief that this will see a lot of play in control deck. Obviously, unlike Fireball, that can't hit base, which is kind of a big deal since it's going to limit where the C's play.
Yeah.
Like any deck that needs early game removal, like Strength especially, that was something they were lacking. They'll be really happy to have this.
What do you think, Gummy?
I like how you get the choice with the second option of what to do, either dealing 2 to the same unit. So especially, I mainly play single player. So when I do have the time to play, I could see this card potentially getting me out of several really big binds when I'm playing, just because you get the choice.
Yeah, versatility is always a big, big plus. Okie dokie then. Now, Wasteland Scorpion. We finally got this Entropic Mage art in, folks. Wasteland Scorpion is a 3-drop mine, 1/4 Scorpion from Miraj with Deadly and Ward. So a nice little French vanilla. Grief, want to talk about why you picked this card?
One attack matters is a deadly unit in mind, which we don't really have too much of, but it's actually a keyword that was already established in that affinity. And yeah, I think it's pretty much in a fine spot for now, considering the cost and the kind of body it actually presents. And if we ever actually manage to get rid of our water bug that has been plaguing the game for since season 2, which was mid of last year, this will be even a better unit. So I think it's pretty good addition to our collection.
Yeah. I mean, simple, clean, common type thing. Gummy, what do you think of it?
It's all right. I mean, I do like cards with Deadly personally, and then I like cards with Ward because those are just the cards I prefer to play. So it's something I would run, but I could see how it's not for everyone.
As a science teacher, how do you feel about the Scorpion?
Oh, it's very aesthetically pleasing. It was drawn very well. It looks awesome. Very good.
Yeah, because that's Entropic Mage draws a lot of animals for whatever reason.
Yes.
So, MD, what do you think of this?
Yeah, it's sort of a classic Entropic Mage style art. Perfectly fine French vanilla design. Could see play in like 1 attack. The ward does make it pretty good against like Daylings, which have a lot of deadly on their own, since you can use that to negate one instance of their deadly and trade up with this.
Yeah.
Could see some play, but we'll see.
Yeah, Daylings is probably like the use case for one of the biggest use cases for this.
Yeah, it's quite good against that mid-range style deck since it blocks really well.
Yeah. Ancestral Power, I wonder who designed this card, is a 5-drop neutral action from Yamato with banish a unit in your graveyard, add its non-summon abilities to an ally it shares a tribe with permanently. So this is obviously a clean design for the bird doctors, all the tribal shenanigans there, but certain other decks you could definitely see play in Dunewalkers that are usually ran in Ashgurdy or any of those other tribes that tend to be ran more with. Yeah, there's a couple reasons you'd run it outside of bird doctors, I guess. Of course, because this is a combo card, maybe you only have 2 targets in mind for this. But Empty, what do you think of it?
I think this is a great card. I know like a lot of people didn't like it, but I'm really glad it got it. Because it's basically like, it's a really weird recursion effect. And I love those type of effects. I think if you're going to have like this big sort of mana cheat play that you can make with this thing, this does it in a way that's very interesting from a deck building perspective, where you have to look at all the tribes and be like, okay, how can I get out like a Titan or a God, something with one of those tribes early in the game so that I can use my Ancestral Power on it. And then your opponent has to be like, every time you play a card with that tribe, they're like, oh shoot, he's going to play Ancestral Power. Better watch out. And I think that's a really fun, like from a gameplay perspective.
Fun play pattern, yeah. It's actually interesting because a long time ago, Fanny Fisher tried to release a 3-drop God, and that was going to be our low end for God, and then it just never happened. So I think the earliest we talked about for Titans is First Mold, and for Gods is Narrator. So like 5 to 8 is kind of the easiest body you can get on him without some other sort of tribal altering shenanigans. Gummy, what do you think of this?
I agree with Empty. It's a fairly cheap cost to quickly get something potentially powerful out on the field.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a cheap workaround, and what's not to admire about that?
Yeah. I really do like Dia's job on the art, but I'm really, really curious as to how this samurai has an insect ancestor. I don't know.
It's Yamato and Dia art. Please don't question how that is possible.
Grief, what do you think of this?
I think it's fine. I'm pretty different technically about that card because whenever it came up in discussions, it usually was compared to Rosa, which A, has a body, B, only cares about undead cards, so there is a versatility point for Ancestral Power, especially since Ancestral Power is neutral and Rosa is spirit tied, but Rosa doesn't banish the target. So there is a pretty interesting back and forth around what card is more suitable for what situation. On the other hand, yeah, it has combo potential. Yes, there's the argument of you never learning and usually just designing more massive many man bullshit cards. But as I said, I'm really fine with that because it's doing it from an angle that's actually approachable if people ever, well, get over themselves and design more answers to such cards, especially in terms of graveyard hate. So it's okay.
Well, yeah, that was kind of the thought, was to
tribal tide.
Yeah. The kind of thought was to take Mass Many and like restrict the scope on it, and then to take Rosa and broaden the scope on it and have them kind of meet in the middle.
I think it's okay. It's a cute addition and will probably entice some certain deck building approaches.
Yeah. Half Reclaimed Shrine is a 2-drop spirit 0/3 place from Degenesis with +1 max mana and active change affinity of card in your hand to spirit. So we did talk about an earlier version of this card, but it has since changed. Namely, I think originally it changed it. Does anyone remember what the earlier version?
Yes, there's a really very interesting aspect to that card. Well, let's not dwell on it. Let's talk about the card on its own.
Okay, Gummy, what did you want to say about the card?
Okay, well, for starters, I am a big Pwaka art fan. I know Stranger Side and him have beefs all the time, and he'll be telling me, oh, Pwaka and I are fighting again. But I love his artwork. Every time I see a card of his come up, it's just my style. It's beautiful. I love the fact that it's +1 max mana because, let's be honest, mana is always good to have. The more mana you can get, quicker, the better.
Yeah, we don't have
I like how, Stranger Side actually asked in the general chat last night if people could give me pointers for coming onto the show today, because with the school year going, I've been a little less than preoccupied, needless to say. I've been way too busy to get on as much as I'd like. So I'm a little behind on the meta, and they said Marie sucks. So because Marie currently is in suck status, as far as Spirit goes, that means this will be a really good card for Dat, which I like. And so
Dat isn't doing much better. This is
compared to Marie, he is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
he
if you're comparing the two Spirit heroes,
yeah.
Dat's doing way better.
We have 4 now.
Yeah.
I didn't mention that in the meta.
Anyways, Grief, what do you think of this?
This card, by the way, is the same as last week, with 2 major changes. A, it's now common. B, that's only possible because it lost one of the major aspects of that places, and that's it cannot attack.
Oh yeah, that's what they did.
And it's not the only place that did so, by the way. Welcome to a new ancient collective where places now can attack.
Text crunch, people. So what it does.
Oh god. I don't have anything against the card. I liked it. Fun enough. Okay. Maybe we can change all places now to can be able to attack. At that point, Wake the World and certain other cards need to probably be reworked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Empty, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's a perfectly fine card. It sort of replaces Mana Maiden, and then it has the affinity thing, just sort of as an extra bonus. You don't really need to make much use of it for this to be worth running. It's just +1 max mana on another 3 is pretty good.
Yeah.
But if you do, nice upside. Maybe if you're running a shifter deck with this, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, this is building up Plopka's idea of making splashing other colors more doable. And I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. Kind of wish that word was neutral, but that's probably just me. And if we are going to do an update where we add can attack back onto it and bump the rarity up to get around the rarity barrier and still keep our conventions, then I would like it if we change that word to neutral, but that's probably just me. Okay, now we're jumping straight in with the accepted submission, or the active submission, starting with Eye of the Wolf is a 3-drop neutral action from nowhere in particular, with secretly choose a card in your opponent's hand, create a Stone Sentinel in hand. And Stone Sentinel is a 5-drop 5/5 that cannot be played with when the chosen card is played, move it straight to play, and entrance dual unit. So, I do like that this has something of a mind games aspect to it, where you're like, oh, what card did they pick? You probably know what card they picked, and this is just sort of a weird counter type situation. I was more confused because this is doing really, really horribly on the Reddit, and I don't know why. So maybe it's busted and I'm just not thinking of something. I don't know. Grief, what do you think?
You're talking about a 3-cost neutral card that can be played anywhere, and any kind of target can be hit that your opponent isn't really aware of. In most cases, it's their cheapest card or the card they really want to play in that specific turn, to the point where you can actually make them skip their turn. And if they do not, you get a free 5/5 buddy that is also removable on a stick. Do I have to say more why that card is extremely good?
Well, I agree that it's good. I guess, is there really a significant, you think this is busted? Do you think this is a significant balance issue here?
It is really, really leaning on the card of, really leaning on the board of being too good for any kind of purpose in situation, especially since it's neutral.
Yeah.
And comes with such a huge removal dude on his back, with a 5 attack stat on top of that. So even if the thing survives and not kills whatever, because you don't actually have to kill the unit you're targeting with Eye of the Wolf. You can target an action and basically against a control matchup kill one of their 2, 3 singular units, or even the one single unit that they have on board. And you have a pretty huge power on board still.
Yeah, it does give you sort of interesting stuff, especially with like certain decks that don't rely too heavily on the board. On a clear board, you're forcing this thing to duel itself. So I think definitely this HP would need to be scaled back. Do you agree with that assessment?
I think the entire card needs a little bit scaled back, especially.
Yeah.
Probably having some restrictions in terms of affinity. Well, maybe MT has more to say about that.
Yeah. MT, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Grief. I think this is too strong. I don't think it's that much of a curve. I think if you made the Stone Sentinel a 4/4, the thing is, like, as soon as you play this card, you're changing the way like your opponent plays the game until this Stone Sentinel comes in, because they have to plan on, okay, if I play this card and it's the one they chose with Eye of the Wolf, am I losing the game here? And if the answer is yes, they just can't play that card.
Yeah.
That's what makes this type of effect so powerful, is the fear it puts in your opponent, where they have to play around this every turn until it comes down.
Yeah, which is what a good mind games type design is, I think. But yeah, I personally would say scale back the HP to the point where it's probably going to die, but maybe won't die. But I could also see maybe a 4/4, or maybe just bumping the cost of Eye. I could also see the argument for that. Gummy, what do you think?
I actually didn't see all the implications of it at first until Grief and Empty started pointing them out. I think it may actually be too strong, come to think of it, as well. Like, I would like to see a restriction on what kind of card you could choose from the opponent's hand.
So like only units or only actions or something?
Yeah.
Only actions might be interesting.
And then leave the stat, maybe lower the stat to a 4/4.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's as is. It's just way too strong, because it's basically what they said. You're playing mind games with them at that point.
Well, Gummy's sure to like this one, because now we have Blood Painter. Is a 2-drop strength exclusive 2/3 demon, vampire, dragon, arcanist from nowhere in particular. With your off affinity cards cost 1 less, and you take 2 damage when you play them. First of all, that tribe soup there that has just about every single tribe that is associated with the dark and spooky end of strength. And this lets you basically pay with your blood painter. Very appropriate. So yeah, I think this is a very fun way to advance the whole splashing is doable thing, especially in an affinity that cares about both self-damage and an affinity that is capable of gaining the life back, right? So in like Mind, this is a dicey proposition, but in Strength, you might be able to find something fun to do with it. For example, you could just give Blood Painter a life bond somehow. And I'm sure there's probably a decent way to do that. And then all of a sudden, hey, this helps me instead of hurts me. What do you think, Empty?
I think it's pretty good. It turns all off affinity penalties into basically Phyrexian mana for Magic.
Yeah.
Which is quite a strong effect, but it's not like that insane unless you somehow like get 2 of these on board. Although then you're taking 4 damage. So the strength exclusivity definitely hurts this a bit, because it's tough to find a strength deck that really runs a lot of off affinity cards. The off affinity penalty hurts a lot more in aggro decks, which is what the Red Bird and Heldem are usually. And then in Perlma, obviously, you're paying double, and you really can't do that most of the time.
Yeah.
So
Perlma, this doesn't let Perlma splash. It's going to be hard to make a card that
Yeah.
actually lets Perlma splash.
if
Because
this wasn't strength exclusive, I think it would be really strong. But as strength exclusive, it may have a hard time finding a deck.
well, people are voting it up quite a bit.
It's a cool design.
Probably a little bit on art advantage because boy, that art is beautiful. Gummy, what do you think?
Again, Quokka, beautiful art, beautiful themed card. I like that you're trying to work on making other affinities splash, like making it splash with other decks. I really enjoy that. And I feel like this card, yeah, if you leave it out too long or if you get multiple of them out, you could struggle a lot with that life loss. But it could be really good just to kind of like help stall out a deck or get you out of a pinch really quick. And then you could just sack it and get rid of it. Use it as a blocker and get rid of it. So overall, though, I think it's not too powerful just because you are taking the 2-hit each time.
Yeah.
Like, I think considering the effect, it does make everything cost 1 less if it's off affinity, but you are taking the 2 damage. I think it's a fair trade.
Yeah. Grief, what do you think?
This is such a good legacy card. By the way, have you forgotten about Shifter, my dude?
Well, yeah. So
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really hard to run Shifter and Heldem or Perlma.
Not a legacy.
Yeah, but I'm talking about standard. I can't pay attention to what's going on.
Grief.
Okay.
Stay in your lane.
That's your
You're a
job.
legacy. Empty is standard, and me and Gummy are single player.
Yeah, I know. But even in standard, I think moving forward, because the idea is to make cards more splashable without forcing stuff like start of game penumbra. Shifter, Blood Painter are basically the best route to take in that regard. And red is such a good anchor point because if you put any of these abilities into the other into the other affinities, they would be fucking busted. But since they are in strength, their power level is a little bit capped because now you are forced to play strength, which mixes very weirdly with certain playstyles in legacy and in standard. But on the other hand, it enforces this specific kind of back and forth playstyle when it comes to deck building. Do I want this card shell in legacy, where I want to put every card in strength now, since I want to have Blood Painter and Shifter. Now my cards have rebound, they cost 1 less, so I get rebound for free on those cards, etc. And Blood Painter goes even the extra mile by being a unit that provides a very good spread of tribes for Baldwin. Be it the Arcanists, be it Dragons, which also have stuff like Tuscany to help you splash higher costed cards into their deck. Now Tuscany is also reduced by the cost, and if you're playing Shifter, it even gains rebound and so on and so forth, and it's going full circle. So this is a very intriguing addition to the collection.
Yeah, I mean, and you could even kind of see with the specific tribes they chose, except maybe Vampire, but like blue Yamato demons, you know, if you wanted blue dragons, blue arcanists, you get a couple different possible like easy suggestions of maybe some tribal ideas to do with it. Okie dokie then. The Obsidian Sentinel is a 4-drop mine 3/6 elemental knight from Seal of Elementary, designed by Entropic Mage. This is from his Metal Dude series. No. Or his Crystal Dude series. With ambush and silence units that this engages in combat with. So yeah, this is sitting at 3 on the Reddit. I thought the idea was super interesting, but I thought the ability was kind of yikes. Like, I don't even know, like, this survivable, I don't see this as doable. because this is gonna like shut your opponent's ability to go aggro down really, really, really hard. So as far as like balance ideas, Grief, do you have a better set of numbers for this, or what do you think the problem is?
I think people are basically thorny about the silence part. That's my personal opinion of why it's not doing so hard, considering that engaging in combat also includes duelist.
Yeah.
But let the person, are people even aware that duelist counts as engaging in combat? That's another issue. So if you can actually make this a duelist, does it silence them pre-combat or post-combat? That's also an issue. But the targets you want to silence usually already got the effect off, so it can be too late for the fact that it actually tries to get off of. So depending on when the silence kicks in, this is either extremely useless as a unit, which is pretty sad considering that, as I said, most targets you want to silence already have summon, entrance effect, or active abilities. And you do not really engage in combat with that thing.
Okay, I see what your point is, but yeah, I also didn't realize that, yeah, this is kind of vague. I'm not totally sure when exactly that silence happened. I'd imagine it's before, but it doesn't actually say. Good point. Gummy, what do you think?
I know when I see ambush and silence together, I think yikes. It's a combination that's very intimidating. And so I can understand why it's not doing as well in the Reddit polls, especially if people tend to think like me, they see that and they imagine playing against it and they're like, oh no, and they just downvote it. Because that's what I do. That's just me. Currently, it's just, I don't like that combo. I don't like how big that HP stat is.
Yeah.
But to each their own.
This is my favorite art from his Crystal Dude series.
Oh, the art's gorgeous. The art is beautiful, but
Empty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Grief that like the wording is a little hard to interpret. And then on top of that, it kind of creates stalled board states where like your opponent can't really attack with any of their good units because you have this. So I can see why it's not doing that great.
Yeah. Okie dokie then. Over to Grease Pit, starting with Belyst, Wosk, Abbot, which is a 4-drop strength 2/4 wax arcanist from Lux with regenerate and summon or replace all cards in your hand with wax copies of target unit. And whenever you play a wax unit, create a wax heart in hand. Wax heart, for those of you who don't remember, gives the unit rebound, and at start a turn, this deals 1 damage to itself. So for a very, very modest cost of 4, this gives you a lot. Boy, this gives you the potential to just spam the board with targets of your favorite spammable unit. And then if you happen to be running sort of a rage build or just a good regenerate build, you can also basically cycle these units like practically ad infinitum, because every time you play it, you get a wax heart. The wax heart gives it rebound. And this grants you a veritable army at a pretty cheap cost. I'm worried it's too pushed, but Grief's probably going to tell me otherwise. Grief?
It sits basically right in the middle of what it can do and what it can't, because you are replacing your entire hand with one single unit. That could be a self-target unit, which makes sense with Waxheart. On the other hand, since there is an update on the subreddit that I want to promote, please update the update for Abyss Salamander, which is only legacy playable, so therefore it will not ruin standard. If you actually target Abyss Salamander with Belyst, Wosk, Abbot, you replace your entire hand with Abyss Salamanders, which then are a pretty good aggro suit, especially since their gains could potentially gain agile due to the update. If you target it with Waxheart, you can give your Abyss Salamander rebound, which allows you to basically have a constant influx of agile burned units in hand. This is only for legacy or single player, which would allow us to have a very aggressive 2-card combo for mid-range slash aggro red in Legacy, which is pretty nice to have. On the other hand, this card will moving forward always have a probably good way of dealing with forwards or enticing you to play specific mid-range slash aggro spells. Good combination is also to target Belyst with your own Waxheart. So the moment where you actually are running low on his HP, you can actually put a Waxheart on it, give him a rebound at the start of the turn. If he would, or basically if he would actually die to a board wipe or whatever, you will basically recover him. So that allows you to, yeah, balance out the board a bit for yourself.
Yeah. MD, what do you think of this?
Very interesting card. Like there's going to be something you can do with that's like pretty nuts with this card. My initial two ideas for decks would be you run this and turn your hand into the Swamp Stompers, and then just have a full hand of those, and they all cost almost nothing. And then when you play them, you get a Waxheart to replace them, so they never go down in cost. Seems pretty decent. My other thought is you run this in KM with like Billionaire Purchase, so you can just fill your hand up with junk to turn into stuff. And then you turn your hand into Lost Lurkers and make your opponent discard their entire hand. So really fun combos you can do with this that I quite like. Maybe it's a bit too strong at 4. You can get this down rather early, but I really like the idea. Like there's some fun stuff you can do with this.
Yeah, I like that's part of the thing is this has a lot of like really, really interesting high roll combo potential. So for single player, this is gonna be just so fun. Like I really, really hope this gets in. As to other formats, I don't know if they should be worried or not, maybe, but we'll see. Gummy, what's your thoughts?
Well, I feel like in both single player and probably in Legacy and everything else, it all goes down to timing with this card. Because if you get it out and you only have 1 or 2 cards in your hand,
Yeah,
like you're not going to be able to do as much with that. But if you have a good deck with decent draw ability where you're able to keep and maintain a full hand of cards, then I could see this really packing a punch.
yeah, and there's also the matter of like when do you need your removal? So I definitely agree that this is both a build around and a card you got to be really, really careful about when you get it off. So yeah, this could be a mixed blessing. I don't know why Grief decided to pull this out again and have me stomp it back into the dirt where it belongs, but Dunewalker Nightcaster is a 3-drop mine 1/4 field win for Miraj with Agile, and allies can only be blocked by enemies across from them. Were you here when we first talked about this, Grief?
No, but I like this card a lot.
I don't, because it's the game. We have a game that doesn't have discrete little unit slots like, say, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Mythgard. And so it's just really, really unintuitive to figure out how this works. If the game engine is telling you really, really hard, if you haven't hard code each individual position, that's an indication maybe you shouldn't be doing it. I like Super. I love Korn's art. I don't like this effect. Grief, I know I let you go first a couple times in a row, but I want to hear your defense since you weren't here when we first talked about it.
You, my sir, are a non-believer. This will open up the church of position methods. This will open up the floodgates of a check the design methods. Can you hear me? Can I have a hallelujah? No, what was that? Just Dunewalker Nightcaster is actually something that I really want to push more towards in terms of experimenting with design. Sure, McJeter, I've basically ranted a lot of with the difference of if you can design something and if you should design something. This is an interesting aspect of, yeah, you can design something like that, and you should, because we can test out how it actually has in-game implications. And moving forward on maybe building upon those structures. We've basically did similar things in the past as well with how we explore different design aspects of the game and mechanically, because let's be honest, collective is pretty box standard in terms of mechanical identities. But this is a little bit, this breaks with the mold and at least gives us something more unique in terms of gameplay aspects. Is it a little bit convoluted? Sure. Is it an interesting design? That definitely.
It's just, if we had little boxes around the cards, I would totally be in favor of this. That's the only thing that's stopping me, is that the way that positions change when you add units doesn't mesh with that. And like, for example, a lot of people didn't even notice that you could have one card able to block 2 units in the first row. That's not intuitive. Because how are you defining a cross, right? It's based around the position of pixels on a screen. There's no boxes. But yeah, like I said, I like Super, I like Corn, I don't like this card. Gummy, what do you think?
I see the issue you're having with the card Stranger Side, but I also kind of agree with Grief's stance, where it really, like, just because we don't have the precedence for something like this yet doesn't mean we can't build on it and get to where we eventually have a call for it. And so I think it's interesting. I think it would be cool if it saw gameplay just to see how everything would line up. Yes, it would be a little bit tricky at first to understand what the definitions of a cross really means. But I mean, once you understand that, it should be simple at that point. And otherwise, it's a great card.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, you don't always know that you have to prepare for this, right? Like sometimes it's in your opponent's deck. And you don't know that I have to think about this kind of thing. So it introduces this whole new potential set of complications that you can't resolve like you could in a slot-based system. Empty, go.
Yeah, I really like the design of the card, but I have to kind of agree with Stranger Side. It's really confusing from like just looking at the board, especially if in the future we get alternative maps and like a mobile version of Collective where like the screen is formatted differently. It could be really confusing and potentially break the card. Is it worth it for having a card that I really love the idea of and would love to play against because it makes combat really cool? I don't know.
Okay.
So we can all agree the card is a little bit weird but interesting in design.
Oh, I think it's interesting. I just think the rules this is where we really hit the rules engine does not support this to the point where this should not be in the game. This is what, in fact, right on the bad side of the line, right? To where a minor difference in the rules engine would make it totally okay. But as it stands, I think it pushes it too much. Okay, Medona Tarrae is a 5-drop strength exclusive 3/5 demon president from Tutela. We talked about an earlier version of this a long time ago, but this is a very, very important character in Tutela lore, so we wanted to get it across. A legendary. Ward, players can't play cards that cost less than their base cost. At the end of turn, spend all your mana and save it for the next turn. And active +1 max mana. If you have 20 or more available mana, set your opponent's max mana to 0. So to be clear, with that active out, if you have 20 or more available mana, your opponent will be able to play at most 1 card and only if they have initiative. This is a frightening, very, very powerful endgame tool if you can get the effect off. But to make this a little interesting, this also, and this was one of the new changes, locks you out of playing cards that have any sort of cost reduction. So forces players into a really interesting spot and forms a very, very fun potential sort of high end for a hate bear deck, I'm guessing. Gummy, you want to talk on this first?
Sure. That's, at first when I was reading the card, it seemed way too like not balanced, like something just didn't sit right with me. But the fact that they're basically locking themselves out of playing cost reduction cards, and they're forcing their opponents to do that as well because it just says players. Yeah. So the fact you're forcing your opponent, which could have a deck stacked with cost reduction, and now neither of you can do that, but you're prepared, it really gives you a board advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And that active, it takes a few turns probably to get up to that, but like you said, if you're able to get it off, it's basically game at that point.
Yeah. I do wonder, because there are certain decks that like that first ability just shuts off, but it's at turn 5, so it's got kind of a balancing factor to that. But like if you're running Dat's Fanatic, like half your deck is now shut off. So this is interesting. Grief, what do you think about it?
This actually screams, okay, we're playing a fair game where ramping is allowed, but not manipulating cost, which is an interesting proposal to have for this particular card, because it wants to play a fair game where you allow yourself to accelerate into higher cost cards via different means to just accelerate your mana. But on the other hand, this shuts down action matters decks, which rely on pretty much reducing cards like Sploosh. This can shut down Dad's Fanatic decks, Tusken decks, can shut down the Stomper, and so on and so forth, because we have a lot of cards that either innately reduce the cost of cards, innately reduce their own cost, or reduce the cost of cards temporarily. Basically, there's also counter towards Blood Painter, which we've just seen a few cards ago. Overall, this is a very clean design that has an innate win condition as a legendary, which isn't too easy to work towards, but also supports a specific kind of game plan where the win condition is a plan B/C, but you are playing the taxing kind of deck.
Yeah.
Where this is the top end you want to hit as soon as possible.
One thing I do like about this is, so Tutela was sold to me as the science and economics realm as two of the main themes. And I saw a lot of this science. This is as economics-y as a card can get. Like, I definitely get the connection. I also do like the president tribal. And now I want to know what the president of Walnocht is and the president of the Girl Scout Club in Carthian is. I want to build a president tribal deck, man. Empty, go.
I'm very conflicted on this card because I really don't like the first ability, but I love the rest of it. Because it's this, like the.
Don't forget
the
what
rest of the
bug
card
exists, so you don't have to care about what.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing. But like, it's just this, it creates this this gameplay thing where it's like your opponent's like playing their deck, maybe they play like a Thought Flux or something, and then suddenly, whoops, I can't play any cards anymore. I guess I lose because my whole hand is now unplayable. And it creates this horrible feeling for your opponent where it completely shuts down what they're doing. And it just sort of happens randomly because you're not going to be playing this for that effect most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, you're running this in some sort of ramp deck where you're going to take advantage of the fact that you can store the mana. And then randomly your opponent is going to lose the game because they're playing cost reduction.
I do like how this is kind of the reckoning for the cost reduction effects, because we've been seeing some potentially gross synergies with like Raptor and all these other designs that are maybe pushing cost reduction a little to the edge. And so having something that just no sales them so hard is maybe merited, because like it can get pretty scary, some of the stuff we're doing, but we'll see.
I wouldn't really call it randomly destroying decks or basically noping them out of the game, because, as you already said, they had it coming for a very long time.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is it's strength exclusive, so I know when to be on the lookout for it, right?
Not just that, this is a perfect promo support card, by the way.
Yeah.
But
like,
yeah.
It's just too absolute. Like,
I mean,
you
that's
just
hate
can't
bear
play them
decks.
at all.
That's basically hate bear decks. So we're playing it.
Yeah, but most hate bears, like increase the cost by 1 or something.
Yeah.
Yes, which is usually a non-factor, and this is basically what the hardest hate pair we could have had.
So increase the
Besides
cost by
stuff like
3.
you just don't want to play against it because you're playing. That's the thing with hate pair decks. Hate pair decks basically say no to decks that play an unfair game, and nothing screams more an unfair mechanic. And this is coming from not only my opponent plays an unfair deck and I lose because I'm playing a casual. I know. An unfair deck or an unfair strategy shades around the way of the basic gameplay, which cost acceleration / cost reduction or manipulation would fall under. The same is basically for any kind of innate card effect that force play stuff and so on, which are unfair gameplay as elements. This hard targets something like that, and we needed hard anti-cheat or anti-cost reduction hate pairs for a very, very long time.
Yeah. Okay, the Esoteric Professor haunts me in my dreams is a 1-drop neutral 1/1 undead Arcanist cultist from HPL with deadly if you control another cultist, and entomb, draw a cultist. So people were saying that as far as a 1-drop goes, this is maybe a little bit pushed. They compared it to yeah, I know. It surprised me because I don't think it is. But some other people said that in terms of like you get this unit that very, very effectively wins trades, right? Because if this manages to get off 1 kill with a deadly, then it's immediately a 2-for-1. Yeah, I didn't agree with the assessment. It's just some people were a little bit worried about how pushed this was. I think it's fine. I think it's fun. I think it's scary. I really, really like the art. What do you think, Empty?
I completely agree with the assessment. Because
Have you read the tribe it cares about?
Well, yeah.
It's a tutor for 1 mana, which is already really good. And then on top of that, deadly if you control another cultist is just nuts. That, like, any mid-range deck is going to hate that, and it's nearly impossible to not 2-for-1 your opponent when you're playing this.
And Greef's counter argument is there's no 0-drop cultist sitting around, right?
No, my counter argument is we have that Dailing that is basically a 1-cost deadly 1/1.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't draw you a card.
That
If
draws
that drew
wait.
you
That doesn't draw you a card from an unconsequential tribe, by the way. Let's say if that Dailing would draw you a Dailing, it would be the most overpowered card in the game. If that Dailing would draw you a cultist, it would be pretty good, but it's not extremely overpowered because cultists are one of the most shittiest tribes in the game. They are basically on the level of bird tribal. And birds have more synergy because they have flying support.
Well, yeah. So I definitely agree that as far as the card pool as it goes right now, there's not enough to really make this terrifying. I think this is definitely a little bit pushed, but it won't get scary until we actually see more cultists. You're definitely running at least 1 cultist in the deck because you're running Esoteric Professor. So this does have a chance to get you another deadly unit. So if you had a card that was a deadly unit that says draw another card that has deadly, that's also a little worrying, maybe. But so I'm kind of reserving judgment on this. Empty is more on the push side, and I'm guessing Grief, you're more on the this is okay side, right?
This has power, but isn't to the point where you could say, okay, yeah, this will be an instant include in every deck because it will draw you a cultist or your cultist deck, and oh my god, now I draw my 5-cost cultist. Damn.
I think as soon as cultists become anywhere close to a real deck, that this will be overtuned. That's the problem, because like I want to see cultists be a real deck, but I don't want to see like insanely pushed cards be the way that becomes a deck.
Yeah. Okay, I can see the argument at least. Gummy, what do you think?
I think it's fine. I mean, Because in my limited experience with Collective, I have not seen that many OP cultists, like Grief said. Now, unless that changes, it's a fine card. It's pretty simple. You can just run multiple Esoteric Professors in your deck to make sure you occasionally hit the deadly combination. But for the most part, it's a fine card as is. I don't see anything too scary about it yet.
Besides the art.
Oh, I love the art.
Okay.
That's
Burp,
the bird.
the Scrounger, is a
That's by the-
10-drop strength 5/6 bird demon from Miraj. With summon, deal 1 damage to all of the units 3 times, and this costs 1 less for each damaged ally unit. So yeah, innate cost reductions, super powerful rage supports. What could go wrong? This is really, really cool, but potentially really scary. And boy, do I love that art. Go, Chris. We miss you so much. Dedicated Rage is... Where is it? I don't really know where it's sitting in like the standard meta.
It's decent.
It's
the
decent.
main issue is that it folds incredibly hard to Daylink, which in this meta is kind of a death sentence.
Okay. So yeah, this could kind of potentially help. I don't like that this is a giant bird with no flying, but I can see why that happened. Especially because this could be like a really good 10 cost flyer, or you know, a good 5/6 flyer with enough damage and stuff like that.
You don't need a second Ragukai, by the way.
I need a Ragukai in strength. Yes, I want a strength Ragukai. Gummy, I'll let you go first on this one.
Okay, so this card could be pretty good, could potentially be a board wipe in some cases because it deals 3 to all. So like does damage on both sides, frees up space. The only thing that really kind of the cost reduction, 1 less for each damaged ally unit, that's fine, that's okay. So the only thing is this is a big conflict with the card we recently discussed a few cards ago.
Which one?
Because the damage reduction or the cost reduction.
Oh yeah. Well,
so,
the preponderance of these kind of designs is why Medona had that clause added. It's because we have quite a few of these now that are huge units that can go down. So
yeah, and so I like how it would prevent that. Like,
yeah.
But I mean, even paying 10 or even paying like 6 or 7 for that, it's a pretty good card.
Yeah.
I think it's fairly statted. I think it's even. Is it a card I would run personally in one of my decks? No, but I don't see anything off with the stats.
Yeah.
And I really like the coloring of the bird.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Rage is doing okay apparently, but yeah, this would be a good bit of help to it. Grief, what do you think of this?
What was the card which we cheated out demons from our deck with?
Oh, Sanguine Ritual?
Sanguine Ritual, yeah. This is basically another Sanguine Ritual target, which is okay. Which is basically just a legacy combo, if I remember correctly, because Sanguine Ritual rotated out. And in that case, it's completely fine, because it's a bird version of Miraj, which is an extremely old corset card that I think dealt 2 or 3 damage to all non-demons at a similar cost range. So overall, this card is completely fine. Yeah, sure. It discard screens the rage support board in most cases. Even your rage targets are getting killed by this dude. So you really want powerful rage effects on the board that trigger off of it multiple times, or else why blow up your entire board? Considering that, yeah, at 7, you've already have 3 damaged cards on board. To the point where, okay, maybe my cards on the board are better than this bird.
Yeah. MP, what do you think?
I really like this card. I think it's a good sort of like top end finisher card for rage decks that lets you clear up the enemy board and then like go in with whatever you have left. Rage decks do a lot of heralding, so there are going to be situations where you have these sort of big units sitting around that just can't get through past all the chump blockers. And in that case, this is going to be really helpful to clear all those away and let you get your attack in.
Oh man, this definitely needs flying then if it's running in a deck with a lot of heralds. Man, give me that 5-drop 10-11 flyer.
I mean, I think text crunch is to fault here. I think it would be cool with flying too. It would be nice to get a good flyer in the rage deck.
Yeah, it's sitting at okay. We should definitely update it if it comes down to it. Sporian would be happy, I'm sure. Okay, guys, let's go to a concert now. Talk about the Sands of Miraj. Is a 1-drop mind banned from Concierta with choose up to 4 members of the Sands of Miraj to create if you have enough available mana. Each one costs 2. The first 2 are 1/3s, the last 2 are 1/2s. Amir is an agile ambusher with when a friendly unit with 1 attack enters play, this duels the opponent. Sarah the pianist is whenever an ally is blocked, this deals 1 damage to the blocker and to the opponent. Mira the guitarist is when an ally unit with 1 attack deals damage, except from this ability, it deals 1 extra damage. And Karam the drummer is end of turn, draw 1 of the top X cards in your deck, where X is the number of times an ally dealt exactly 1 damage this turn. So, interesting observations. If you want to manage to get a cheap combo off, I am not sure how Mira interacts with other copies of Mira. So with Mira and 2 copies of Mira and a Karim, you can deal 26 damage to your opponent and kill yourself if the game ends at that point. So this is interesting because this is something we didn't even know was entirely possible in the rules. It was a little curious about having inter-realm travel. So obviously these are Miraj Fiowin, who went to Concierta, formed a band, and managed to get a really kick-ass fog machine. I love the whole concept. I think it's beautiful. And I'm interested to see more of these kind of designs. As far as the card, it's a little bit hard to evaluate because there's so much of an engine going on in here. For those of you who did not notice, all of these abilities feed into each other, sometimes in more ways than one. And this is really, really cool. Empty, what do you think of this?
Very interesting design. It's sort of like this board in a can design.
Yeah.
Really, really strong card. I think this may be slightly overtuned because it basically lets you run 6 copies of Dunewalker Archer.
Yeah.
Since Mira has essentially the same effect. And of course, it stacks with Dunewalker Archer, which means it's going to be dealing 4 damage if you already have 1 in play. And then, of course, if you get to like turn 9 or maybe ramp up there with Ashkurdy, if you just play this on its own, it's like 6 additional damage of reach, since Amir will trigger off the rest of them coming into play, and then Mira will double the damage, and then it's going to threaten more damage that turn with Agile as well. Just super, super versatile. There's so many like weird combos you're going to be able to do with this in Dunewalkers. I think maybe a bit push, but it's a very interesting card.
Yeah, I can see why it's kind of pushed the way. First of all, you are paying a small premium on the unit because you have to pay the 1 to do the thing.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean, where I think this is a little weird on the balance end, and it's going to be really hard once it gets in, because it's doing really well. Probably going to get in to see what exactly kind of fixes it needs, but we'll see. Gummy is a big music fan. What do you think of this design?
Okay, for starters, I need to know if Amir was inspired by Freddie Mercury. So if the artist could come out and like message Stranger Side, please let me know.
Almost certainly. I mean, the whole pose.
Come on. Cool.
Like the outfit, everything. I think that was the inspiration, and I'm like 95% confident in that.
Yeah.
Second off, I do like how they each play into each other. I like how their abilities stack. I think it's fairly balanced just because you have to pay for each individual member. And if you do not have the mana at the time, then you just can't play all the combo.
Yeah.
And so I like it. I like it as is. I love the whole theme. I love the aesthetic. Great job.
Yeah. But see, like even at like 7, you can like not do Sarah. You just do Mira, Karen, and then you get like draw 6, deal 3 damage. I mean, I don't know. Oh, draw 1 of the top 6.
Yeah,
So
that'd be
tutor
pretty nuts if it
6.
was the other way around.
Oh yeah, soft tutor. Yeah, this is beautiful. But yeah, I am a little bit worried about I just don't know what's going to happen to it because there's so many different knobs to tune. Grief, what do you think?
I love this card. By the way, stranger, take notes. Sleuth Sedan, not good. Sands of Mirage, very good.
I'm actually working on another ban for Concierto for those of you who are on the side server.
Not only you, my dude.
Yeah.
I basically called out the newness. You bastard! Now I actually have to make a Walnut crossover card for this realm. But yeah, points aside, this is a very good way of basically making this board in a can, as MT already pointed out, or multi-token card with an command-esque twist on it. This is basically a pairing between cards like Dan and Arcane Scriptures.
Yeah.
Arcane Scriptures, which gives you the choice of having a modular effect of basically building a board for this certain kind of interaction or situation that you have presented before you to solve the board or even the game in that case. So I personally want more cards in that regard because they are more unit heavy and don't particularly sell the, oh yeah, I'm action spammed off deck, which stalls out until we win by a fork and peer combo. We had all these situations. This is a more board-centric entrance effect kind of solution to it, similar to the, what's it called? God, from Mistem? That
Moonlight's Calling.
Moonlight's Calling. So I'm personally a very big fan of that card aesthetically and effect-wise because it gives you that that option and basically the freedom to build what you actually need.
Okay. Okay. Let me see where we're hopping off to now. With the Valley of Nightshade. I don't know where Gummy went, but she will probably be back soon. The Valley of Nightshade is a 1-drop spirit 1/3 plant plays for Mentera with can attack and deadly. Nice clean common there. I was a little bit interested in this. We can't ask Gummy why she picked it because she decided to disappear. MT, what do you think of this design?
I mean, it's very simple. It's just like it's good against for aggro mid-range decks. Slows down the board a bit. It's a place and a plant, so those decks maybe they'll do something.
Well, yeah. So I mean, the thing obviously to compare this to is the our other previous 1-drop deadly unit, the Daling that did this kind of thing, but this has the advantage.
Got nerfed.
Yeah, well, it got nerfed to a 1/1, and so now we have this at a 1/3, which has a little bit more HP and might be able to trade up twice. Possibly, probably not. Mostly this is just anti-aggro at this point.
Yeah, and it might be too good at 1/3, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's the thing. But I mean, at 1/2, it's basically just pre-nerfed Daling Rogue. So like, it's hard to really see the point of this as it stands, but we will see.
I mean, if the tribes become more relevant, like if plants take off, it could be very, very strong.
Oh yeah, in single player, this definitely could get you some fun stuff like Thorn Regent or just any sort of Snapdragon. This is actually a really, really fun blocker with Snapdragon, or maybe something to give it regenerate somehow. Grief, what do you think of this?
And that has a message for you. Daling Rogue, friendship with Daling Rogue ended. Valley of Nightshade is now my new best friend.
Yeah, this actually could be a really solid DAT card. I agree. Do you think it's maybe a bit too pushed, given how it can trade at really early levels?
The thing is, though, it can't really attack, which was a very important part of Daily Rogue, because it can attack and gets buffed to do auto dealing shenanigans like Chieftain, and usually gets out of range by attacking or even blocking with it. This can have similar situations with it by being a plant, but in all honesty, there's not really much access to that. We have now not a plant, but a place tutor who can use it maybe to tutor off of it or into other plants and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But overall, this is basically a similar thing with Sunflower. People basically consider Sunflower overpowered. Yeah, it was a dart staple, but besides that, it never really saw play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Gummy, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I picked this card because I liked it or was appealed by the idea in some way. I like that, well, what is it? I just like Nightshade as a plant to begin with. I like reading about it. I like learning about it, knowing about it. It's referenced in a lot of the stuff I read, like personally, just for fun. And so I love that it's represented so well in this card. I just feel like they caught the essence of what it is and just represented it beautifully. And I know the last time I was on, I mentioned how I didn't like plants were becoming a theme, and I'm sorry, Terra people, for that. So this was me kind of extending a hand. I was banned the last time I was on.
I said shit about you the last episode, but I like your newest card, so we're friends.
I'm trying anyway.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just going to jump over to the next one with another plant, this time from Walnut. The Soulward Lilies are a 3-drop Spirit 4/4 plant specter from Walnut with Ambush, Life Bond, start of turn, discard a card if you can't destroy this. So people had a lot of fun talking about this on the Discord. It's a very short discussion, but a very, very thought-provoking one, I feel. So obviously we have the thing in Collective where discard is a non-cost for certain cards, right? Like that's what procs their effect. Maybe they have rebound so they can get discarded ones for free. So I think it's very, very interesting. And this is a very, very push design in that front. I think this is on the right side. I definitely don't think this is busted. And so as far as what I think of it in regards to that analysis, this is beautiful, both artistically and design-wise. And I really, really like this card. So thumbs up from me. And I think, where's other people's stances on this? But a lot of people seem to have similar opinions that this is an interesting kind of direction to go with it. So Gummy, what do you think of this?
Well, a lot of the same thoughts you did. That's why I chose it. I absolutely love the art. The first thing I looked at when I looked at this card was that cute little ghoul coming out from the plant. I really enjoy that. Spike Bear did a good job on that. I like the fact that it's Ambush and Life Bond. That is a combo I personally can completely get behind. I like the fact that it is, like you said, on that front with discarding cards, because we have, even when I was playing before the school year started, I was playing daily, I was playing weekly, I did see a lot of cards coming out that it was discard this many cards or banish cards. And so it does play, from my perspective, into the current theme really well.
Yeah. I mean, some of that stuff rotated out, so getting some of that support back in forms of an engine is pretty good. Yeah. Empty, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think Spectres right now are like a very underestimated deck. A lot of people don't think they're very good, but they were really close to being a powerful deck. And there's a few cards on the Reddit this week, and if they all get in, I think Spectres will really be a powerhouse in the coming month. This is definitely one of them, since it gives Spectres a way to like reliably discard something every turn, which was something they were really lacking because most of their discard effects are one-offs right now. The only issue with this card is if you're running it with Elam, it sort of messes up your trigger since you don't get to use the active before the start of the turn.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an issue, but other than that, great card.
Yeah, but I don't know if this should have been maybe start a combat. Do you think if we wanted to make it just something that works with the existing stuff or no?
If you want to make something that works perfectly with the existing stuff, yeah. Either
Okay.
start a combat or end of turn would be better. Start of turn is like the worst possible time because it means it's always going to eat your Ellen trigger.
Yeah. But yeah, I really, really like this design. This is neat. And I do like how there are definitely positions where this drawback is a genuine drawback in terms of like, oh no, I have some cards I need to hold on to, some of my removal and stuff, where there are certain positions you could get into where this is a risk, which I think is appropriate given the fact that this is a little bit over curve. Grief, what do you think?
Yeah, the thing is, I personally never see, or in most cases, see a discard not as a benefit, even though synergies exist with it. It is, in all intents and purposes, always a drawback. Always in -1. The thing with Soulward Lilies was, I think initially what is designed for, before we got turned into a 3-cost, Spike asked if 2 costs would be fine, which I even thought was extreme push because you're still getting ambush, life bond, especially with a plant card with 4 attack, means that it can benefit off of 3 life gain plus matters, which this card falls pretty much well into the deck. Problem is though, then the start of turn, this card is also in your way. This isn't cost by all intents and purposes, especially in terms of timing and the amount of cards. Thing is, this is an extremely good addition to Legacy discard.
Yeah.
Legacy has an extremely large pool of beneficial cards that want to be discarded or trigger off cards discarding. Soulward Lilies was pushed even by would be pushed even by Legacy standards at 2 costs, so at 3 costs it's fine.
Oh no, originally it was a 5/5.
A 5/5 for exactly, yeah. No, the latest version before it was turned into a 3 cost. I think, and Card Lab was also 2 cost. So I said, yeah, maybe make it 3 cost. Or was it? Yeah, no, 3 cost 5 or 4/4. Yeah, well, whatever. But yeah, in Legacy, this card can basically enable any kind of good engine, especially at start of turn triggers, because yeah, sure, you have Element in Legacy, but you rarely care about Element in that case. You care about Ravaging Spirit being a free unit at the start of the turn. Wisp of Hope, which will be restricted, by the way, just as a heads up, people. So we can only put 1 Wisp of Hope in your deck. So no free draw 2 every damn time you can get it off. This will be a very good inclusion in any kind of shifter deck, because shifter gives your cards rebound if they're of affinity. So if you're playing shifter in a green shell together with Soulward, all your of affinity cards now have rebound and are free discard targets to fuel the Soulward Lilies, and so on and so forth. Even in standard, that's possible.
Oh, that is terrifying. I didn't even think of that. Well, just this with Half Reclaimed Shrine and Essence Shifter, and I don't even care if I'm running Specters at that point, right? Like, who cares? Everything has rebound. I get this really cool unit for cheap. Okay. Let's move on to, I think, what is the last one. And of course, because Gummy is such a big Popka fan, we have another Popka art. Tamita, the Glowbringer, is a 3-drop strength 3/3 Nightling Knight from Swiatlo. With summon, protect an ally. When the protected ally is blocked, this gives this blocker -2 attack this turn, then duels it. I thought we had talked about this card, but I actually went back through the docs and I couldn't see this. So I'm going to assume that I didn't miss anything, and we didn't. And boy, howdy, did we kind of sweep this under the rug. This creates a very, very interesting board state. And it convolutes combat math in all the really, really interesting ways. Tamita itself might have problems surviving the duel, but the -2 attack is a pretty big drawback to do it. And basically this serves as a bodyguard to help you ram through something probably really, really big and then still survive. What do you think of it, Grief?
Welcome back to the old ways of Nightlings. With quirky, flavorful target effects that actually want to care about cards be either following them or being played after your target. So yeah, this is a very good nostalgia trip for myself because I like old school Nightlings, and this is a very good addition to that deck. Also, kind of a side grade. I currently care a lot about knights, and this is a perfect knight card for that kind of deck. So yeah, this is a perfect effect for you want to push for more aggressive mid-range / aggro shell, and this allows you to actually go through with your cards, especially with frenzy targets that not just soften up the target for your duelist, in this case Glowbringer, but also allows you to basically be a counter, which is interesting to Daylings, which have a very broad spectrum of gaining deadly or having innate deadly units. Now, since they cannot deal damage anymore, you cannot get killed by deadly attackers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do like the dichotomy between like the Daylings, which had a couple fairly low attack deadlies, and now the Nightling that actually serves to counter some of those Daylings. But yeah, this is definitely really fun and flavorful. That archetype you're working on is actually in strength as well as being knights, right?
Funny enough, it's a multicolored archetype that cares about name and knight and tribal. That's why.
Yeah. Okay. Gummy, what do you think of this?
I really like it. I like seeing that you do get to choose an ally, and the neg to attack to it, I think, adds a huge impact to the card itself. Yeah. Even if necessarily Tamita doesn't survive multiple rounds of this. But I mean, even if you found ways to boost her HP and then keep Tamita around, it could add a lot of impact. And so I like thinking about how it could affect combat math, like you were saying.
Yeah, and you want to find like something really, really big, and then you want to kind of actually split your buffs between Tamita and the other, potentially using some of the other Nightlings to get that done. Empty, what do you think?
I'm with Grief. I really like old style Nightling. This is a really interesting card. I always like cards that like make combat interesting and force your opponent to think about like what they're blocking and like how they're attacking and how all that's going to play out. Cool card.
Yeah. Okie dokie then. I think with that we have finished out the document. Yep. Okie doke. I'm gonna stop the share. So that was fun. This was an interesting week. Puapka got a lot of attention this week just because Puapka is doing a lot of really interesting stuff. But we also had, of course, some of the other favorite designers and some stuff as well. I did see a lot of new people around the Reddit, and I hope that we keep seeing more stuff from them going forward. And new artists just hit the Discord. So this one was more, I think, established designers, but I think next week, especially if people join the Discord, we have people who will help you. We can get art on your cards. We will help you block them. Join the Discord. And then maybe we could see some interesting stuff from some of the newer players next week. So thank you, as always, Grief, for joining me.
Always welcome, and I love being on the show.
And thank you also to Empty Folder.
Yeah, goodbye, everyone.
Is that a futon? What is that?
Oh, that's the second bed.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, and of course, for our Valentine's Day special, it was so nice having you on, Gummy.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
I'll see you in the other room here in a minute. So like, comment, and subscribe. Remind me why I'm doing this, and keep playing the game and keep voting on cards. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.